Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup. I got to record early again this week, which is probably going to be the case for at least the next couple of weeks. So if any posts come in after this is recorded, I'll just get to them next week. And of course, if there's ever anything time sensitive, I'll post on social media. And of course, it's all going to be on RetroRGB.com. But anyway, let's jump in and see what we got. First up is a video Stika did about some of the lesser known gaming controversies around the world. So of course, Mortal Kombat and Night Trap were huge in the US in the early 90s, but you might not know about other ones that happened all around the world, including the US as well. And even just the opening one really made me think, because I had completely forgotten about the game Redneck Rampage. And when he showed it in the video, I just started laughing because I remember a friend of mine buying it when we were kids when it first came out. And I just laughed so hard. It was so ridiculous that there was no sense of reality in there. I mean that in a nice way. Like, it was supposed to be an over the top ridiculous thing. And I don't know anybody, I don't imagine anybody could have ever turned into a murderer because they played Redneck Rampage and were desensitized to it. But I remember all that stuff from back in the day. I also remember it not being a good game, but I think Stika agreed with me on that one, but I don't know. There's a whole bunch in there. I could talk about all of them, but then I would just be repeating Stika's video, which not cool. So check out the video if you want all of these things. But I always find history to be interesting, and of course video game history. Now you're crossing over a couple of different things I like, but some of the controversies I'd never heard of, and some of them I did. But I just think that stuff's always interesting. And while Night Trap and Mortal Kombat are all great stories to tell, but I think it's really cool to have some lesser known ones out there. So if you're into video game history or just fun stories, check out that video. Next, pre-orders opened for the Analogue 3D, which is their N64 FPGA console, and the price came to about $300 including shipping, and that was for console only, not the controller. They are selling a controller as well that you could pre-order through Amazon, and it kind of reminds me of the Retro Fighters controller in that it's more modern styled, but with the layout of an N64. So I picked one of those up. I'm interested to see what the latency is versus the Retro Fighters controller, which was very low latency. But overall, I've always been excited about analog products, but this one really stands out to me because it looks like an N64. And all joking aside, I always tease them about their premium shipping and their extremely limited FOMO campaigns, but I've always liked the consoles. And with the only real complaints ever been of mine personally have been that they don't look like the original consoles. Some sort of kind of resemble it, but one of the things about retro, if you grew up playing these, is that you want to feel like you're playing it. Now, modern gamers that are younger and didn't grow up with this might not care, and some people might just like having their original N64 on a shelf or original console and just play through whatever. But I love that this looks like an N64. I think that's a small but really important detail, and I hope that Analog starts to consider doing other stuff like that, because the IP for this stuff is long expired, so they're not going to get sued for making something that looks exactly like it. But I'm excited for this one. A friend of mine was kind enough to allow me to pre-order it so I could try it out real quick, but then just ship it right on to them. So I'm excited to try it when it gets here. I'll have to go back to that N64 live stream I did a while back and recheck out some of the games that I had never really played or forgotten about that were pretty cool. But I definitely want to check out all of the features, like the 4K output, the CRT filters, see if I could try to run some latency tests, which the analog consoles have always been extremely low to zero latency anyway. But I don't know. I'm excited. I think this is going to be pretty cool. And I think it's overall a pretty big deal, because N64 is one of those consoles that they don't make crappy cheap clone consoles for, except for that one that was really bad. So having a fairly priced alternative, because if you think about just the cost of an HDMI mod and the console itself, I mean, if you wanted original consoles, you could probably do that, but you should also worry about standard refurbishing and, if that's even going to work, if it even is going to output the resolutions that you want. So I think overall the price is fair, and this has the potential to be really, really, really cool. So more info in the post if you're looking for it. But honestly, this just looks awesome. You could pick it up in a dark or a lighter silver color. And I don't know. I'm just kind of looking forward to seeing what it does. And I think they're going to ship Q1 of next year. So that could be up to springtime, I guess. But I don't know. I just can't wait to see this one. Chris from Displaced Gamers just did another behind the code deep dive video of Ikari Warriors for the NES. And this episode was really interesting to me because, in my layman's point of view, I'm not a programmer, so take this with a grain of salt. I don't really know what I'm talking about here, but it really seemed like the people who ported the game over were really, really smart and incredibly good at math, to the point where they were able to write their own code in order to do certain instruction sets on the NES that wasn't possible with any of the existing stuff. And they had to just write it themselves in order to make all of this happen, at the cost of performance and bad controls. So watching this, I almost got the impression that a bunch of really smart people were like, yeah, we could do video games, but they weren't gamers. So they didn't really understand why 15 frames per second versus 60 is a huge deal, and why certain really awkward controls would make people not want to play a game. So once again, that's just my complete layman's opinion on it. But that kind of made the episode even more interesting for me personally, because I really liked watching Chris dig into how they used trigonometry to make this stuff work. And I don't know, it was awesome. So if you're even remotely interested in the Behind the Code series, this one's a must watch, especially if you're a nerd, because this one will definitely pipe up your brain for digging into what they did in order to get this stuff working. Next up, Victor Luschitz just posted a 32X CD game called Doom CD 32X Fusion. And essentially, it's the Doom 32X Resurrection port, which also incorporates Doom 2 and allows players to create their own WADs. And it requires original hardware only, because this uses all of the chips on the 32X, the Genesis, and the Sega CD in order to make all of this stuff happen. This actually marks the first time a 32X CD game was released that wasn't an FMV, and it looks really cool. And it's just more proof of what could have been done with these setups. And, no one had the time and the budget back then to do it. I'm certainly not throwing shade at 90s devs, especially when there were new consoles just around the corner that they should have been spending their time on. But just from a historic nerd perspective, it's really neat to see what could be done. And Gameplay and Talk did a live stream going through it and showing it off, and it looked really, really neat. There's tons more info on the main page on Doom World, and Matty B, Mateus Baez, put a post together here on RetroRGB that shows basically everything that you'd need to know about it. So if you want a short summary, definitely check out Matt's post. If you want all the details, go to the main link on Doom World, or if you just want to check it out, see the live stream they did. But this is just awesome. And yes, it's because it's all original hardware. You can't play it on Mister, or you can't use a ROM cart. You actually have to have a 32X, a Genesis, and a Sega CD to do it. But that kind of makes it even more unique and interesting. And hey, maybe someday, if the Mister team has time, they could see if a 32X CD core is even possible on the DE10. But I was told a couple of times that the FPGA might not be big enough to hold all three of those consoles in there at the same time. I'm oversimplifying that description, by the way, but it's a good way to visualize it. So that might have to wait until the DE10 successor or whatever next project that uses a bigger FPGA. But this is cool. This is really awesome work. And, I'm always happy to support Victor and all the stuff that he does. So thanks to Matt for writing the post. Thanks to Gameplay and Talk for doing a very cool live stream. And of course, thanks to Victor for making this. Digital artist DivizX has just released the latest version of his Sega Neptune shell, and this is modeled after the canceled console from the 90s that was essentially a 32X and a Genesis mixed into one. And this shell has been updated to look more like the original prototype, and it has a couple of other tweaks, as well as a removable backplate. So instead of just being a bottom piece, a top piece, and then all the buttons and flaps, it's a bottom piece, a top piece, and an I/O port. So there's a few different projects being worked on potentially for this case. At the very least, you could either use a Genesis 2 motherboard, you could use Kosam's motherboard, which is essentially a homebrew Neptune motherboard, which more info on that in an upcoming video. Or you could try to do one of the Frankenstein approaches where you actually take a 32X and put it together, like Tito from Macho Nacho Production showed a couple months ago. But not only that, there are other future projects that might utilize this shell where if you've already bought one, you would be able to just use a different I/O port, or hopefully, maybe if we're all very lucky, DivizX would consider doing an injection molded version of this, which means then they could make just all of the parts injection molded, but then release for a standard backplate as well, but then release the design files for just the backplate so people could 3D print whatever they wanted for whatever project they wanted to work on. And that's my hope, because it costs about $360 to make this from PCBWay. Now, a lot of people get very pissed in the comments of the short that I posted, more on that in a second, but I want to be clear. This is not DivizX charging $360. This is a project posted on PCBWay, and you're paying them to print it, sand it, and paint it, and ship it to you. So yeah, it's very expensive, more expensive than most people would want to spend on this. But if you are excited and you do have the money to spend, when you order it from PCBWay, it comes out looking factory. I mean, the one that I had here that I showed in the video really did look and feel like it was a true console, which I'm not throwing shade at 3D printing here, but I think we all know that the look and feel is different. So I hope that after this revision, enough people could test it out, provide some feedback. And if this really is the final revision, maybe DivizX could work with somebody like Retro Game Restore, who makes those incredible quality, high quality shells, to have not a 3D printed, but an actual injection molded version. I personally, my selfish request here is I'd love to see the colors being offered is original Genesis black to match what it would have been, probably the same color scheme as a Genesis 3, but I'd also love to see that gray Japanese Saturn color, not the white, but that awesome version of gray. And of course, I'd love to see a transparent version as well, just, if that's even possible, just because why not, right? But I think this is awesome. Now, YouTube Shorts announced that they were allowing up to 3 minutes. And then I posted a 2-minute video and it came out as a regular video. Podcastage was kind enough to respond to a question on social media about that and said that YouTube said that they were going to be updating this automatically in the coming weeks. But if you wondered why I uploaded a video that was shot vertically in tape mode and to a regular YouTube video, I didn't mean to. It was supposed to be just a quick 2-minute social media short, which I like those. I like treating them like social media posts. But this one also has a guide on walking you through how to order this from PCBWay, and I only showed how to order one of the parts. You have to order all of them individually, but DivizX was nice enough to put PDFs together to show you exactly how to do that. And I think once you just do one of the parts, you get it. Like, you watch me do it in the video and you do it yourself and you go, oh, okay, so I just gotta, add each one individually to my cart, and then, hit right click and hit open a new window, set all the settings, and then go from there. So hopefully that made things easier for people. I really, really wanted to do a deep dive video. I just have zero time to do it. So I wanted to at least promote it. And also I wanted to shout out PCBWay, because they helped me get one of those cases so that I could do a video on it, and then I ran out of time. So I owe you one, PCBWay. My apologies, Elaine. But yeah, check everything out here if you're interested. The link to the project, the link to Kosam's amazing motherboard. Once again, more info on that soon. And also go back and check out Tito's video on it, because he had it printed through PCBWay as well. So you get to see in his video how nice it is. And he did the Frankenstein version and it works. So hopefully, I'm really interested in checking out Kosam's board, though. I'd really love to be able to plug a 32X game in and power it on and have it actually work, which I've never had luck with 32X consoles. But yeah, I'm really fired up for this, and I just really hope this leads to injection molded versions, because it could be half the price. Probably still really expensive for a niche item like this, but half the price. So cross our fingers. Okay, so a whole bunch of people messaged me when an NVMe mod was released for original Wii's. And I want to start out by saying I love weird niche projects. I am by no means throwing shade at this at all. In fact, most of the projects that I work on could be classified as weird niche things that most people don't need. But that's what this is. And I just mean that because I want to set everybody's expectations correctly. So this is a device that you open up your Wii and you could mount an NVMe hard drive inside, and you run a little wire out and you plug it into the USB port. So essentially it's an NVMe to USB converter that allows you to use that drive. If you already have a spare NVMe drive laying around, then the $22 this costs, a spare drive and the ability to open a Wii, then that $22 is well spent. Now you could use something that you have laying around that you otherwise might not have even been able to sell, and you could just make it all work. And I love it for that. Except my Wii's for the past couple of years and all the ones that I've helped my friends work on all use those stubby little USB drives that they almost look like one of those like keyboard and mouse dongles. Those, they barely stick out at all, or like a shorty USB Wi-Fi dongle. And the one that I have is 512 gigabytes, and it works perfect. And it's plug and play, obviously. I'm still able to keep my USB Ethernet adapter plugged in next to it. It just, I don't understand why anybody would use the NVMe solution over that unless you're just looking to use drives that you already have lying around. Also, USB Loader GX has some compatibility issues with it, but WeFlow seems to work fine. So if you're using that, that's not a big deal. If you want more info and an installation guide and a demo and all of this, Ryan from Arcades, Ryan, could you correct me? I'm a moron with pronunciations. I don't mean to get it wrong, but yeah, Ryan did a video on it. So if you want to see this thing in action, go for it. And once again, I love weird projects like this. I just got so many messages from people who I think misunderstood and thought this was some kind of mod where you get faster drives on your Wii, which you're running through the same exact USB port. So there really is no advantage other than utilizing stuff that you have lying around. So to the people who made this, awesome. I love it. I think it's absolutely got a place, but to everybody else, you should probably just stick with the basic USB stick because it's just, you don't have to open up your Wii and you don't have to worry about it. And transferring games, you just treat it like a USB stick. So hopefully that all came out positive because I meant it that way. I just wanted, and if I got anything wrong, by all means, please let me know. Maybe this is something else that maybe I'm missing something. It's been a rough couple of weeks, so maybe I'm just completely out of it and just don't even know what I'm talking about. But I think I do. So let me know in the comments what you think. But once again, awesome device if it's for you, and if not, consider just a USB stick to make your life easier. Lou's Mr. Updates were pretty short this week, so I'm just going to blow through them. First, the CDI core from Slammy now has preliminary audio support, which is awesome. I am really excited for this core. I really think a lot more people need to experience the power of the CDI. But it's, all kidding aside, I mean, it has a very unique place in history. So if the core could play the MPEG module games, so the FMV games, and has mouse support, then you have basically everything that you need to try out a CDI. And who knows, maybe it'll push you to get an original just to have a weird, unique piece of video game history. Or maybe you could just go, awesome, I always wanted to try this, and that was enough. The fact that a core exists is just going to be awesome. So thank you, Slammy, for continuing to work on this. I'm super, super excited to try it out. Next, when they're in stock, QM Tech is now selling a full Mr. kit for about $160 that includes everything. It includes the FPGA board with 128 megabytes of built-in SD RAM, the I/O board, and the PCB-based case, along with a 32 gigabyte SD card, and either a European or US power supply. Don't know why I stumbled that one. So yeah, this is huge. It's $160 for a full working kit when just the DE10 Nano is like $225. So this is a pretty big deal. The fact that they're often not in stock is unfortunate, but I really hope that QM Tech is able to ramp up production and get enough of these in there. And I also hope QM Tech's able to get them to other case manufacturers, because I still really want to see retro castle cases for the QM Tech and the Taki boards. But there's also other great sellers around the planet that make awesome, unique kits that really should be getting these. So, to Taki and to QM Tech, I know you want to sell your own stuff, but I think you should really make some effort to get these in the hands of other sellers, and even consider selling them in bulk to other sellers, 50, 100 at a clip or whatever, just so we all could bounce off each other. People could continue to make their unique and awesome cases, but now they could sell more affordable kits because of your main FPGA boards. I think everybody kind of wins on this one. So let's all cross our fingers and hope. But that's it for this week. It was a short one, but I'm still really proud to support Lou on Patreon because I would never be able to keep up with the weekly stuff that he does. So thank you so much, Lou, for doing these. Totally cool that it's a short one this week and two very important things to talk about. So I'm glad you put out the video. Well, that's it for this week. It's another sort of short one, and it's probably going to be like that for a couple more weeks, but we always get you covered with the time-sensitive stuff, pre-orders, any of that. And also, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of the people who hang out in the comments. And nothing sparked this, nothing good or bad. I just, for whatever reason, I was scrolling through my phone, waiting in line somewhere, looking at the comments from last week's video, and felt a sense of appreciation for all of the people that just have really good conversations. Or if I make a mistake, tell me in a way that's respectful. And even the ones that are only a little bit respectful, that's fine. Like, it means a lot that people take the time to be part of the community and to be positive or even neutral about it, or even negative. There's absolutely ways of being negative that are just normal, total adult ways of handling it without being a total psycho. So thank you to everybody who does hang out in the comments like that, because you don't have to. You could just listen to these and never interact ever, and I still absolutely love you for being part of this. But I definitely wanted to just take a moment to thank everybody, because it's just nice to be able to go through the comments and have great conversations with people. But anyway, as always, thank you to all of the awesome people in the comments, but also especially to anybody who supports in any way, because services like Floatplane and Patreon are really the only thing keeping this stuff going. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.